Okay, just trying to get my camera working here. Why am I not on? Okay, y'all, I'm just trying to get my camera working here. Let's see. Stream, viewing, FaceTime camera. All right, does anybody know why my camera is not working? Hey everyone, not sure if you can see me right now. Write a comment if you are able to see me. I am not able to see me, so wondering if this is actually on. I can hear my audio, but I cannot see my video. Let me see. Hang on, everybody. You see me. Okay, perfect. Then I don't need to see me. I don't, as long as you guys can see me, that's good. Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate that. So I actually want to take a minute or a couple minutes and lean into conversation around everything that's been going on. Hey, Tina. I know it's been a really, really heavy week this past week, and a lot of people are processing emotions, a lot of things going on. And I have to say, tonight I'm going to just show up and speak from my heart and share what I'm learning, share what I've been blessed to be in conversation about. I've had several of my friends in the Black community who are really good friends of mine, who are leaders, who have voices that don't feel like they're being heard. I've had the opportunity to sit down and have several conversations to really better understand their perspective and where we may be missing opportunity, or where we're not seeing the power of white privilege and what is our opportunity to take responsibility for. And so tonight I want to talk about this idea of stop rationalizing racism away. From the conversations I'm having, it's becoming very clear that there's several things that are creating even more pain right now. And one is this idea that we, and I say we, being me and others, needing to feel, we as a collective, we, rationalizing away what's really going on. Having conversations where we feel we need to insert our opinion, or we need to insert just even a space, and I'm trying to find my words so that I say this completely openly and directly. I don't want to, how do I want to say this? I don't want to not say what needs to be said. And so in some cases, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing from other people is that in some cases we feel we need to tell Black people how they need to feel. That Black people are extremely tired and exhausted of having this conversation, and we keep wanting them to justify and rationalize and explain to us what white privilege is, explain to us what racism and what systemic racism is. And what we don't realize is we have a responsibility, and I'm speaking at this point right now, especially to the people that are white in my community, like myself, who have a responsibility to educate themselves. And what I've noticed is a lot of people want answers. A lot of people want to understand why. A lot of people want to know, what does this mean, or explain that to me, or justify this. And I need you to realize that first and foremost, our friends in the Black community are exhausted. They're exhausted in having to explain this to you. They're exhausted in you trying to rationalize what you think you're seeing versus what's really happening. I've had a lot of people even weigh in, and a lot of people that actually I've blocked out of my community because they're not choosing to show up in the conversation. They're choosing to spew more hate, or to stay very narrow-minded in the fact that they want to dismiss that racism is happening in this country, that systemic racism is happening in this country. And one of the things I want to clear up for people, hey Cosbat, Love seeing you here. Hello, everybody that's jumping on. I want you to realize that this has been going on for a really long time. First of all, there's over 400 years of oppression in this country. And I want you to acknowledge and lean into the fact that systemic racism goes beyond even more than just we have law enforcement and officers who are not honoring the badge and who are not stepping forward. It is across all of our systems. There is fundamentally issues and problems, and these systems were not designed to be equal from the start. And so when you look at the very fabric, the very thread of which this country has been based on, systemically, we have flaws in the systems that we have been taught, the systems that, whether it be our education system, our economic system, our political system, our law enforcement systems, our unions, and that goes on and on and on. And so one of the things I really want you to allow yourself some opportunity to be open to is getting more, and the word's not comfortable, but getting more courageous to be in conversations that matter, and conversations around racism and systemic racism and white privilege and what that really means. Regardless of you wanting to push it away and turning a blind eye and dismissing this and denying it, it is happening, and it's been happening for many, many, many hundreds of years. There has been oppression and social justice and things that have been an unequal playing field for a really long time. And so, like I said, as I was starting this call, and I'm struggling a little bit, as this is me being courageous with all of you and very vulnerable. I know some of you have seen a lot of my posts, and I'm very clear that I will not be silenced anymore, and very clear that I do feel some shame in not stepping forward sooner, in not using my voice and using my platform to really bring to light the issues at hand. And so I want you to understand that I get that it's hard to have these conversations. This is extremely difficult for me to stand in the space knowing that there is risk of all kinds of backlash and things that could happen, and there is no other option. There is an opportunity to say, this is uncomfortable, this is not my problem, and I'm here to tell you that yes, it is. It is all of our problem. And the thing is, hey Velma, the thing is it's not on the shoulders. It's not a burden that our Black community should and needs to be carrying any further. They are extremely weary in this space. And what I want you to think about, I just got off the phone, and one of the reasons why I wanted to go live is this is so me processing right now the conversations that I've been blessed to have with the people in my Black community, the people who are willing to be vulnerable because they trust me, and be vulnerable in sharing where they don't feel they can trust other people and why. And so I want you to, if you're willing, to stay with me for a little bit, to be open, to better understand what white privilege really means, to better understand what racism really is, and why that's what's happening right now. Because here's the thing, when you choose to turn a blind eye, when your silence is what you choose because it's comfortable over the opportunity to step forward and speak truth, know that when you choose not to speak up for your friends who happen to be Black, the message that they receive is one of, I now know I can't be safe with you. And as my friend was sharing this to me, it broke my heart. She gave me sort of a scenario to think about, how would you feel for a moment? So think about, people say, well, that wasn't my family. That wasn't, it's not my community. It's not this. And I get, mamas are hurting because they're like, well, I would feel the same way for my child. Yet, Anne, how she put it in perspective for me was, imagine for a minute that it was your child that you were watching this happen to. Yet not only was it one time, it was 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 400 times that it was happening to your family over and over and over again. How would you feel? Because there's a lot of people right now that feel obligated. And I'm going to tell you that I've got a lot of energy, so I am really coming from my heart, and I've got a lot of passion around this topic, and it's something that I want to make sure that I'm leaning into to really be able to speak truth right now. And it is uncomfortable. It is really, but truthfully, just to be clear with all of you, I want to throw up right now. I want to hurl. I would love to not have to have this conversation. And as a leader, as someone who knows the value of human life, this is unacceptable what we've created in our society, what we allow to be our truth in our culture. And so I am going to be really intense at some parts because I can feel it coming through me, right? And so I really, yes, the hard conversations need to be had. I couldn't agree with that more. And so I want you to think about if you were subjected to the catch-22 that's out there that says there is not an equal playing field. We have not created an equal playing field. And for some of you that are like, but I'm not a racist, and I know you've seen comments around that, it's not enough right now for you to just simply say, I'm not a racist. It's an opportunity for you to be anti-racist because there is an underlying thread of deep corruption that is happening right now and has been happening for a really long time in our country, in our culture, in the way that we value human life. And silence, and I love that you said that, Amy, silence is a choice. And what happens is when we choose silence, when we choose what's comfortable, when we don't want to get involved, when we want to turn a blind eye because we're scared, the message is received loud and clear. And our friends and our family and our brothers and our sisters, our Black communities say that I don't feel safe with you. I don't feel heard with you. When you post Martin Luther King memes thinking that it dismisses and it rationalizes what's going on, it says you're not listening. It says you're not choosing to see them for all of the pain, all of the grief, all of the reality of what they're experiencing day in, day out, every moment, every breath of every day. And if you think that it's just isolated into what's happening with law enforcement and how we have some bad apples, let me give you some really tangible examples that's happening in every moment. We have court cases that have happened because a young Black African girl wanted to wear her hair natural. Think about the fact that our Black community has to ask themselves every day, what do I have to do to fit in? What do I have to do so that I'm safe? And even when they do what we say they need to do, it's a catch-22 and a double standard. Whether it's the way they dress or the way they talk or their hair, or there is such a double standard in our country that we have missed. And I am going to take full responsibility to say, I allowed myself to be naive for far too long. I have allowed myself to be quiet. I have allowed myself to wish and pray and to every day that I see this happening to think I'm just going to choose love. I'm going to lean into love. And I'm going to pray that this goes away. And here's the thing, love is amazing and love is not enough. We need to take action. And I'm going to tell you that for those of you that your skin crawls when you hear the term white privilege, I'm going to tell you that's your opportunity. I'm tired of you using that as a, well, I'm not white privileged. I've had a tough life. This happened to me. It doesn't matter. There are still things that you have that you are entitled to simply because of the color of your skin. And here's what's so amazing, and if you look at the ray of light that's sitting out there, is that we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to be a voice where a voice hasn't been heard. And one of the things that I heard tonight talking to a dear friend of mine from high school, who I'm so grateful for the openness and vulnerability of people willing to educate me, to help me understand what the reality of this has been, because I feel like I've missed opportunities to show up in a bigger way sooner. And so I am here to tell you first and foremost that I am not going to be silent. And for those of you that are like, oh great, Candy's on, whatever you want to say, move off and out of my community, because there's people that need and want to be here to have this conversation, because this is not going away. This is a conversation that I want to start opening up, and I want to have with people who say, please, yes, help me be educated. Because here's the thing, I want to take the burden off my Black friends who have had to answer these questions time and time and time and time and time again, when it is not on them to explain it to you. I need you to understand that. Now, where they want to share their stories, I offer that you listen and zip your lip, that you stop trying to rationalize it, that you stop trying to, and here's an example of rationalization you may not even know is getting in your way, that when they tell you their story, when they share their truth, when they stand before you and are open and vulnerable and say, please see me, and you say, yeah, but, and have to insert your own 2 cents and your own perspective and your own, in that moment, you are telling them that you do not see them. In that moment, you are telling that person that you don't matter enough, that I'm not willing to step with you through fire. People that you sit and spend time on their Facebook telling them how proud you are of their kids, how much you love the pictures, how you love their strength, that when push comes to shove and they're standing before you, telling you their truth, you're choosing not to listen with an open heart. And I really, really want you to understand that that in and of itself is white privilege. That in and of itself is you playing into racism and the systemic racism that is going on in this country. Do you understand when you need to rationalize it, when you need to justify it, when you need to make it about you instead of about what's happening in this country right now? That is the definition of white privilege. That is, your understanding is not the issue. You have an opportunity to educate yourself. You have an opportunity to educate yourself in ways that our history classes didn't teach us if you want to talk about systemic issues in this country. This is a space that, I'm telling you, the biggest thing I'm hearing from my friends, that they want to be seen. They want to know that they have the same level of value that you would put on your dog. And trust me, you all know how I love Peyton. The fact that some of us are more concerned about the stuff that's getting torn up, which in most cases isn't even coming from the Black community. And it's not coming from the protesters, which is a different space. It's coming from those trying to instigate, to manipulate. And here's the thing, even if they were tearing shit up, wouldn't you? Think about the fact, how much do you have to be dismissed? How many ways do you have to show up and do everything the way you're told to do it and still not be heard? And still watch countless, every day, your family members being taken from you. And someone trying to justify that and rationalize that. If the tables were turned, there would be outrage. If it were your child or your family, you would not let anything stop you from getting justice. So how can we step forward and judge when, in my opinion, damn it, I'd have been fired up a hell of a long time ago. I think the Black community has been really patient and really peaceful. And I know some white folks that don't have that kind of patience. I know some white folks that riot over baseball games and football games and other things and tear up cities. And we're going to sit here when we have a real problem in this country. And we've had a problem going on for centuries. I'm telling you as a white person of privilege, and yes, I have white privilege, whether I want it or not. The color of my skin has afforded me opportunities. I don't sit every day thinking about, have I done what I need to do to walk out of my house? Have I told my children everything they need to do to make sure if they get stopped, how to not look this part? Have I spoken the right words? Have I used the right language? It amazes me how I have friends that keep getting told they're too Black. What does that even mean? But the fact is, that is their reality every day. And when you don't understand, and yeah, I hear you, about 400 years and they're tired. This is our burden. I'm going to tell you right now that I didn't sign up for a declaration that says we the people and said the American dream and the land of the free. Because right now we don't walk that talk. And I know that I have opportunity to continue to educate myself. I've been on sort of like the rapid fire. I am going to educate in everything I possibly can because it is absolutely not okay for us to stay ignorant. And I need you to understand, this is our responsibility. Leadership is a choice on every level. It is a function of how you choose to show up. It is a function of how you choose to serve. And it is a function of the personal responsibility you take inside those places. Because there is a real issue happening in this country. And you know what? I love America and I want to love the United States. And right now, I got to say, I've had real thoughts about, man, I just want to get the hell out. Because I just can't sometimes with the ignorance around us. When people say, well, yeah, but, or when we blatantly see a man murdered and people want to justify that away. When I don't care what report comes out telling me what. I don't need someone to tell me what I've seen with my own eyes. And for those of you that say, and I've had friends send me videos from the protests, and I say protests because they were peaceful protests, that someone then came in and incited the violence, and it wasn't the Black community. I've seen videos. I have friends who were in the protest sharing the action with me. So if you think something is not going on right now, if you keep turning a blind eye to it, that burden is on you, and you are part of the problem. You have two choices in this, and I cannot stress that enough. You have the choice to be part of the solution, and you have the choice to be part of the problem. And that's it. There is no space in between. And I want you to realize that for those of you that are like, I'm feeling this, I do want to step in. I'm scared. I don't know how. I want you to reach out. I want you to know there's resources. I want you to know I'm here to help guide you as I keep learning. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not perfect in any capacity, and there's a hell of a lot I still got to learn. And I'm going to open up these conversations. And we're going to stare this straight in the eye, and we're going to start to look at systemically what is going on in this country. And I welcome those of you who have different biases and beliefs, who are willing to have a constructive and courageous conversation. Because here's the thing, nothing gets solved in silence. Nothing happens by dismissing what's going on. Nothing happens by pretending or justifying or trying to convince yourself of something different. I want you to understand that right now our Black community doesn't feel safe. They don't feel safe collectively on a national level. They don't feel safe even in their own local communities. They don't feel safe when we show up and say, yeah, but let me insert my 2 cents. Yeah, but let me tell you how it is. Oh, you're feeling this. Oh, please stop telling them how they're feeling or how they should feel. Please stop putting out the Martin Luther King quotes to justify your shame, your guilt, and what you need to sit with to ask yourself how you get to be different. It's not about putting blame out anymore. It's about us taking responsibility and taking action. And so I want you to think about the fact that we've been missing the point. I've been missing the point. And like I said, I am on a rapid fire space to get educated, because that's my responsibility. And with my privilege, I have a voice. I have a platform. I'm here tonight because this is so real. And this is the first time I've gone live to speak in this space, because I've been using my words through writing, because I can channel the energy. And as you can see, I still have a lot of energy. I have a lot of emotion around this. And I've been asked by many to use my voice, to show up and open up a space so that we can have these courageous conversations. And so the question that there's some questions I want you to think about. And one of them is, are you willing to go the distance with your Black brothers and sisters no matter what? And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary. There's going to be backlash. I probably cleared out 30 people in an hour today off my community. I'm okay with that. Because at the end of the day, the value I put on human life far exceeds anybody's criticism, anybody's judgment, anybody's bullshit bias they want to throw out. because we can't hide behind this anymore. And so I want you to think about the fact that can you actually stand up? And this was a question that I loved that when I talked to one of my friends today, she said, can you say, I'm with you even if it gets tough for me? Because how far are you willing to go? And for some of you, that means just speaking up to begin with. And it's more than you just liking posts and putting little hearts and being like, whatever. It's using your voice. It's speaking out against injustice. It's telling yourself you have a responsibility, even if it's just with your family. It's making sure that when you see someone being targeted, you see someone who's being instigated, when you see the wrong in that, that you're willing to stand up for them, that you're willing to say that that's wrong, that you're willing to serve in a way that says, I'm going to lead today. Leadership's tough, y'all. I'm not going to mess around with you. It's tough being a leader. It's tough standing up for what's right. And we don't get to cop out. We don't get to turn a blind eye anymore. We don't get to half-ass and say, well, I'm just going to say I'm not a racist. It doesn't work like that. Your actions speak your truth. Your words speak your truth. And we need to dismantle systemic racism in this country. We need to completely break down the very systems that are not working for us. We need to rebuild with something entirely new. And we need every single person, all hands on deck, to do that. It requires every voice. It requires every person. If you've had any outrage, if you've had anything in you that's viscerally shown up about what's been going on, as you watch that video on George Floyd, or you watch any of these other instances that are happening, if you are not viscerally affected by this, I'm going to say, man, you got a whole lot of soul searching to do, and I'm just going to leave that there. If you, however, have found any outrage, then you must and need to, and there is no excuses for stepping up and speaking out. And I also want you to check yourself if you are finding yourself far more outraged by the riots and the looting and all of what you think you perceive versus the fact that real human life, breath was taken from human life as if it was disposable. If you value your shit more than you value human life, you got work to do, and I'm asking you to get real with yourself. I'm asking you to be honest. And here's the thing, I have white privilege. I get it showing up. And I also get to use that to be a voice for those that aren't being heard. I get that I get to say right now, they're hurting as much from everything that's going on and from those of you who are choosing to be silent. And for those of you that keep trying to rationalize. The amount of pain we're inflicting when we choose not to see the truth is probably the most appalling piece of this. And this is my cry for all of you. This is the opportunity. Yes, and racism is there is all kinds of racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism or racism. Racism is racism. When you don't value human life, when you don't value all human life, I want you to realize you are part of the problem. And I really, really, really want us to hold up a mirror of truth, myself included. And I've had people say, stop apologizing for not showing up before, you're showing up now. Because I can't do the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Wayne Dyer always says that, right? Woulda, coulda, shoulda didn't exist. It's not real. And here's the thing I want you to recognize right now. Some of you are getting fired up with me, and you know I'm a passionate person, and you know I like to get in. I'm going to light a fire under all this. And if one of my sisters was doing this right now, she would be immediately classified as the angry black woman. Do you get what white privilege is? Do you get that I get to be fired up right now? I get to scream a little. I get to elevate my voice. I get to be in your face a little bit. And it's okay because I'm just a passionate white woman. Do you understand that if one of my sisters whose voice needs to be heard, or God forbid one of my brothers, stood up and did the same thing, in many cases they would be evaluated differently? That is systemic racism. That is what is happening in our culture right now. And I want you to see the difference. I want you to understand, and you might not even recognize that you have that initial, oh, look at that angry black woman, or oh, look at that man, right? And what I don't want you to realize is it's been embedded in us. It's been embedded in us since birth, in the systems that we've been born into. And that is not an excuse. It is the reality. For many of us, is an unconscious bias. What I'm asking is that you get in front of that bias and you start to peel back the layers and you start to ask yourself, is this my truth? Because it's about what serves. It's about what do you believe in? What do you stand for? And I will tell you, in all the work that I do, and for those of you that know me and the work I do a lot around helping people find their truth, find a way to empower themselves strong, because empowerment comes from within, unless it's marginalized and not even been given space to breathe. I think about Brene Brown talking about, and I had another conversation with another one of my friends, when we talked about Brene Brown, when she talks in The Call to Courage, which, by the way, you need to watch that on Netflix. When she talks about we worry so much about being accepted that we forget to belong to ourselves first. And one of my black friends said, what if so much damage has been done, you don't even know how to belong to yourself anymore? Think about that for a minute. We have created space where there isn't even opportunity to feel empowered because we keep trying to strip it away at every turn. You have a responsibility to start getting really clear around who you are, what you believe in, and what your values are. If you say you value human life above all else, then put your mouth to action. Then put your feet in motion and put your money where your mouth is. Start supporting the organizations that are breaking down or trying to break down systemic racism. Start investing in the history books we weren't given that tell the real story about what happened in this country over the last 400 years. Start investing your time in podcasts to educate yourself with leaders who are sharing truth and not manipulative stories. If you really believe that you value human life above all else, there should be no other option. You either then step into the solution or you are full of shit. Because if you say you value human life more than anything and you choose to stay silent, I'm going to tell you, I don't believe you. I don't feel safe around you either. Because if you're willing to let your uncomfortable, if you're willing to be so concerned with what everybody else thinks, stop you for fighting for what matters most, what if it was your child? What if it was your family? You would be outraged and would demand justice. And so that, my friends, I'm really just in this energy of wanting to share real time the conversations that I've had, especially today, but I've had over the last couple of days. I assure you I'm having more of these conversations and working with others to build forums to open up discussions so that we can lean in and have courageous conversations. I'm also going to, thanks to a request of another friend, as I think about the list of books I am going to immerse myself in, open up a space for those who want to engage in a discussion, and work through these books together. Sometimes it's easier to have the hard conversation when you have a point of reference. Sometimes it's easier when you know you're not alone reading the truth of what's happened in this country over the last 400 years. Sometimes it's easier when you know others are afraid to be vulnerable too. And so I ask for those of you that want to be part of this conversation, for those of you that want to do the learning, who want to be educated and want to have support around you when you do it, please just let me know. Let me know so you can be invited, so that you can show up. And these are going to be safe spaces where we can allow ourselves to dig into and expose. Because I so agree when Brene Brown says, it's not a matter of whether you have bias. It's how many and how deep. We all have bias. We all have beliefs that we've been given and stories we've been told. We all have things that systemically have been programmed in us. And it's only when we have a willingness to step up and lean in and peel back those layers to see the truth inside that we can start to change the course and create effective change. And so I say that, and I invite you, and I urge you, and I want you to feel the pain, and I want to share the pain I'm hearing from my brothers and sisters, from the people that I care most about in my community, because they're hurting right now, and they're tired right now, and they don't feel seen right now, and they don't feel heard right now. And it's not all of us that are creating that space, but it's a lot of us. And we have real work to do. And I want you guys to know I love you. I wouldn't be here if I didn't love you. I wouldn't be here if I didn't love humanity. I've got to say, humanity's been getting on my nerves a little bit lately, the way some people are choosing to show up, and I love humanity. I fight for humanity. I'm a champion for humanity first, always. And I can't be a champion unless that includes all of humanity. And that means Black Lives Matter. And for those of you that want to put it out there and be like, all lives matter, stop. That's another justification. You're not hearing the issue at hand. Stop making this about you. Start making this about the health of humanity overall, and see the systemic racism and the thread that's going on in our country, and know that it is our responsibility and burden to carry. And so I ask you to be kind and compassionate to those that are grieving, to yourself, to others, and please stop rationalizing the racism that's going on in this country, and please stop putting this burden on our Black brothers and sisters. Stop asking them to explain it to you. If you do not understand what racism really is, if you do not understand what white privilege is, if you do not understand what systemic racism is, educate yourselves without putting further burden on your Black brothers and sisters. They've had enough. They've had more than enough. And they've had everything that's been unfair and unjust too much. So I ask you, tap in when they share their stories. Be with it. Take care. Read every word they share with you about their experiences. There's great education in other people's truths. And if you want to be part of this conversation, if you're willing to step through your fear and what's uncomfortable, you do not have to do that alone. Just say yes so you can be part of this community to have those conversations, to get the resources you need, to be supported. And I'm going to tell you, I already can feel it I can feel the monkey mind kicking in even in my own brain right now going, oh my God, I don't even know what just came out of my mouth. All I did was lead with my heart, and I hope I didn't overstep and say something. And at the same time, I got to let that go because I'm going to screw up some of this conversation. I have screwed up some of this conversation because I'm learning in every breath how to show up better. I'm learning. I'm willing to fail so that I can learn to be better. I'm learning, which means I'm going to get my ass handed to me. It means I'm going to fall down. It means I'm going to get egg on my face and say something wrong. And I know, because I have beautiful human beings in my community, because I have beautiful brothers and sisters who've got my back, I know that when I misstep, not even if, I know that when my mouth gets ahead of my brain and my heart, I know they're lovingly going to tell me, Candy, that one was a little off. Here's what I would have done differently. And you know what? I'm going to be open to receive it. I'm going to be open to receive because I love my brothers and sisters. And my heart is hurting, y'all. My soul is hurting, as are many of yours. Yet silence is not taking action. Silence is not okay. So get it wrong if you have to, but show up. Let your brothers and sisters know that you are willing to stand with them, to stand for them, to stand in front of them, beside them, no matter what, no matter how tough it gets. No matter how tough it gets, you are not going to leave their side. And when they need a space to have their voice be heard, that you are going to be the one that raises your hand that says, that's mine. I'll be back. So much more to say. Whew. I love you all. I love you all. And I appreciate, I see, and I'm going to go back and read every one of these comments that you put in here in the chat. This is on us, you guys. This is our moment to come together and end the senselessness. And it takes every one of us. Every one of us. And for those of you who have vulnerably shared your stories with me, who keep reaching out and choose to be courageous, just know I see you. I see you. I see you. I hear you. To my Black brothers and sisters, I see you. I see you. I'm listening. And I love you. And please know, I am wrapping you all up in so much love. Keep your family safe. Keep each other safe. And let's learn to be more courageous together. Okay? I love you. Thank you, Evan.